This world would soon join the list of conquests in the glorious history of the Vaxari Empire. The reports indicated the humans were primitive, using fossil fuels and fighting among themselves. They had barely reached their own moon. Their technology was centuries behind the Vaxari Zorlak's expected little resistance commander. The preliminary scans are complete. Her second-in-command, Krex, approached with a data tablet. The planet appears to be mostly water with 7 major landmasses. Population centers are concentrated along coastlines and river valleys. Military capabilities are primitive projectile weapons, limited air power, and minimal space presence. Zorlax nodded, satisfied with the assessment. The conquest would be swift. A standard orbital bombardment, followed by ground forces to secure any valuable resources and enslave the survivors. The Vaxari had performed this operation dozens of times across the galaxy. Begin the attack sequence, she ordered. Target their largest military, installations, and government centers. First wave bombardment in 30 minutes. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing the ship for combat. Zorlax felt the familiar surge of anticipation that came before a conquest. The humans would learn what so many species had discovered before them. Resistance against the Vaxari was futile. Far below, in a secret underground facility beneath the Nevada desert, alarm system suddenly blared to life. Technician Susan Wright jolted awake at her monitoring station. Her eyes quickly focused on the display showing an enormous heat signature in orbit, unknown spacecraft detected. She called out to her supervisor. The system identifies it as non-human design. Energy readings suggest weapons charging. Her supervisor, Maria Bennett, rushed over to examine the readings. Her face grew pale as she recognized the pattern sound. The alarm, she ordered. This is not a drill. We have a Class 1 first contact scenario. Activate the Prometheus protocol throughout the facility. Lights shifted to red as sirens wailed. Personnel rushed to battle stations. The facility had trained for this possibility since its creation decades ago, after the recovery of a crashed alien ship in New Mexico. The public never knew the truth, but the government had spent billions preparing for the day Earth might face an extraterrestrial threat. In the command center, General Patricia Coleman received the alert and immediately initiated emergency protocols. Contact the Secretary of Defense, she ordered, and notify all Olympus installations worldwide. This is what we prepared for. Across the planet, in hidden bunkers beneath mountains, inside hollow volcanoes, and deep under the oceans. Similar alerts sounded throughout the world carefully. Concealed defense systems began powering up. While the public believed space exploration had stalled after the moon landings, in reality, humanity had been building a secret space fleet using technology reverse-engineered from the crashed alien ship. At the White House, the president was escorted to the secure bunker deep beneath the East Wing. The Secretary of Defense, Michelle Torres, delivered the news. Madam President, we have confirmed alien contact. Hostile intent is clear. The vessel in orbit is preparing weapons. The Prometheus protocol has been activated. The president nodded grimly. They had discussed this possibility many times during security briefings. How long until they attack? Approximately 28 minutes based on their energy buildup patterns. And our readiness, all Olympus installations report green status. The shield grid is powering up. The fleet is launching. We can have full defensive capabilities in 18 minutes. Give the order, the president said. Activate everything. We will not surrender Earth without a fight. Deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Colonel Amy Reeves input the final authorization codes that would bring the planetary defense grid online. For decades, the world's nations had secretly cooperated on this project, even while maintaining public rivalries. Understanding the potential threat from space had united former enemies in common. Cause orbital platforms disguised as communications, satellites repositioned themselves. Energy collectors on the dark side of the moon powered up, sending stored energy to relay stations around Earth. In the Mariana Trench, the world's largest power generator began converting ocean thermal energy into the massive power needed for the shield grid. On her ship, Zorlax watched with satisfaction as the weapon systems reached full charge. In 10 minutes, the bombardment would begin, and another world would fall to the glory of the Vaxari commander. We are detecting energy surges across the planet. Krex reported with confusion. "The readings are unusual," Zorlax frowned. "Show me." The tactical display revealed dozens of power signatures activating across Earth. Some deep underground, others in the oceans, and still more in orbit. Their patterns suggested something the intelligence reports had not indicated. "What are these?" she demanded. Before Krex could answer, the tactical officer called out. "Energy shield detected. The planet is generating a defensive barrier. Impossible." Zorlax hissed. "These primitives have no such technology." Nevertheless, the officer replied, "The shield is forming a complete enclosure around the planet, will be complete in 7 minutes. Zorlax slammed her fist down on the command console. "Our intelligence is clearly flawed. Launch the bombardment immediately before their defenses are complete." The massive weapon arrays on the Vaxari vessel redirected their aim and fired brilliant purple energy beams lanced toward Earth. The attack that had destroyed dozens of civilizations now targeted humanity in the Nevada Command Center. Susan Wright watched the incoming attack on her monitors, shield at 70% capacity. She reported impact in 15 seconds. Around the world, people looked up in horror as the sky lit up with purple fire. The Vaxari attack struck the partially formed shield. The energy dispersed across the barrier, creating spectacular auroras visible even in daylight. Those watching had no idea they were witnessing an alien attack. Most would later believe it had been an unusual solar flare. The shield held shield integrity at 65%. Susan reported all systems functioning within parameters. The attack was absorbed in the White House bunker. The Secretary of Defense smiled grimly. "The shield is holding, Madam President. The aliens' first strike failed. Now we reveal our true capabilities on her ship." Zorlax stared in disbelief as her attack dissipated against the Earth shield. "Impossible," she whispered. "How could these primitives possess such technology, Commander? We have multiple launches detected from Earth." Krex reported, his voice tight with concern. "They appear to be spacecraft, hundreds of them." The tactical display showed vessels rising from hidden bases across Earth, from underwater facilities, mountain hangars, and even from the moon. Small, sleek ships of a design Zorlax had never seen before. They moved with incredible speed and agility, forming attack formations. "This cannot be," Zorlax muttered. "Our intelligence indicated they had no space combat capabilities." The officer at communications turned with alarm. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the Earth forces." "Put it through," Zorlax ordered, her voice steady despite her confusion. The view screen activated, showing a human female in a dark uniform with insignia Zorlax did not recognize. The human appeared calm, professional, and entirely unsurprised by the alien presence. "This is Admiral Linda Morgan of the Earth Defense Force. You have committed an act of war against our planet. Your unprovoked attack has been recorded and will be remembered. We demand your immediate withdrawal from Earth space. You have 5 minutes to comply, or we will take defensive action." Zorlax stared at the human admiral. Were these the same primitives their intelligence had described? The same species that supposedly fought among themselves over resources and territory? Something was very wrong. "Scan those vessels," she ordered. "What weapons do they carry?" The tactical officer worked quickly, then looked up with concern. "The scans are being blocked, Commander, but energy readings suggest advanced propulsion and weapon systems possibly comparable to our own." Krex moved closer to speak privately. "Commander, we were not prepared for this level of resistance. Perhaps we should withdraw and reassess." Zorlax felt rage build within her. No Vaxari fleet had ever retreated. The Empire would consider it the highest dishonor. She would rather die in battle. "Prepare all weapons," she commanded. "We are the Vaxari. We do not flee from primitives." The Earth fleet continued its approach. Admiral Morgan watched from the bridge of the EDF Olympus as her ships moved into attack position. The first encounter with hostile aliens was proceeding exactly as the war games had predicted. When faced with unexpected resistance, the aliens would likely choose aggression over retreat. All ships prepared to engage, the Admiral ordered. Target their weapon systems and propulsion first. We want prisoners if possible. The Earth fleet accelerated, suddenly demonstrating maneuverability that surprised even the Vaxari. The human vessels had been built with one purpose: to defend Earth against technologically superior enemies. Every aspect of their design focused on the goal. Zorlax watched as the human fleet split into 3 attack groups, executing a complex maneuver that would divide her forces' attention. They fight like the Krell, she observed with grudging respect. Coordinated, strategic. The intelligence was completely wrong. These are not primitives. The first shots fired from Earth vessels struck the Vaxari ship with surprising force. The shields flared as they absorbed the impact, but power levels dropped significantly. Shield capacity at 70%, the tactical officer reported. Their weapons are more effective than anticipated. Return fire. Zorlax ordered. All batteries. The space around Earth lit up as the battle began. The Vaxari ship fired its secondary weapons, creating a barrage of energy projectiles. The Earth fleet responded with incredible agility, most ships avoiding damage entirely. From her command center, Susan Wright monitored the battle alongside General Coleman. "The fleet is performing even better than simulations predicted," she said with pride. "The aliens didn't expect us to be ready." "No, they didn't," the general agreed. "Humanity has always been underestimated, even by ourselves." In orbit, the battle continued. The massive Vaxari ship, despite its firepower, was designed for planetary bombardment, not ship-to-ship combat. The smaller Earth vessels pressed their advantage, attacking from multiple vectors, targeting specific systems on. The Vaxari bridge alarm sounded as systems began to fail. Shield capacity at 40%, primary weapons offline. Krex reported engine power fluctuating. "Commander, we cannot sustain this battle." Zorlax gripped her command console, fighting against the realization that was forming. They had walked into a trap. The humans had somehow known they were coming and had prepared accordingly. What other explanation could there be for such complete readiness? As if reading her thoughts, a new transmission came through from Admiral Morgan. "Commander Zorlax, we have studied your kind for decades. We recovered one of your scout ships that crashed on our world 50 years ago. Everything we know about your technology, your tactics, your biology, comes from that ship and its occupants. We have been preparing for this day since then." Zorlax felt a chill run through her body. A scout ship had crashed on Earth decades ago, and the humans had used that knowledge to prepare for invasion. The implications were staggering. The bridge rocked as another hit damaged the ship's structural integrity. "Commander, we must retreat," Krex urged. "We cannot win this battle." For the first time in her career, Zorlax faced defeat. Her ship was crippled, her weapons disabled, and an enemy fleet surrounded her. The humans had accomplished what no other species had managed. They had bested the Vaxari in combat. With bitter resignation, she opened a channel to the human admiral. "This is Commander Zorlax of the Vaxari Empire. I request terms for surrender." As Admiral Morgan received the surrender, she allowed herself a small smile. The first test of Earth's defenses had been successful, but she knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast and filled with potential threats today. Humanity had revealed itself as a power to be reckoned with. The real challenges would come when word of this defeat spread to other species across the stars. Earth had announced its presence to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. Now let me create part 2 for you. 3 days after the battle, the Vaxari commander Zorlax sat in a sterile white room aboard the human space station Artemis. The orbital facility had remained hidden until after the conflict, now serving as neutral ground for diplomatic talks. Zorlax had never imagined she would be in this position. The mighty Vaxari did not surrender yet. Here she was, awaiting the arrival of human representatives to discuss terms. The door slid open, and Admiral Linda Morgan entered, followed by 2 security officers and a civilian woman in a crisp blue suit. The Admiral wore her formal uniform adorned with medals and insignia of rank. The civilian carried a tablet and had an air of authority that suggested significant political power. "Commander Zorlax, I am Admiral Morgan, as you know," she said, gesturing to her companion. "This is Director Grace Wilson, head of the Earth Defense Intelligence Division." Zorlax stood offering the traditional Vaxari greeting with her 4 arms in a complex pattern. The humans did not return the gesture, unfamiliar with its meaning. You fought well. Zorlax acknowledged a worthy adversary. The Vaxari have not faced defeat in 800 years, Admiral Morgan nodded, accepting the compliment. We prefer not to fight at all, but we have prepared for this possibility since discovering we were not alone in the Galaxy Director. Wilson activated her tablet, displaying images of a crashed spacecraft. The twisted metal bore the unmistakable design elements of Vaxari technology. 53 years ago, this scout ship crashed in the desert region of New Mexico, she explained. We recovered the craft and 2 surviving crew members. They lived for several years in our custody, providing valuable information before succumbing to injuries sustained in the crash. Zorlax studied the images with shock. The scout ship had been declared lost, presumed destroyed in an asteroid field. No one had suspected it had reached Earth, allowing humans to study Vaxari technology. The director continued, From them we learned about the Vaxari Empire, its conquest of 12 systems, and its eventual plans to expand into this sector. We began preparing immediately. The Prometheus Protocol was established, a global defense initiative hidden from the general public. Nations that appeared to be enemies cooperated in secret, pooling resources and knowledge. But you fight among yourselves, Zorlax protested. Our intelligence showed your species divided by borders and ideologies. Director Wilson smiled thinly. Those conflicts are real, but when faced with extinction, all human differences become secondary. We maintained our divisions publicly while working together privately. The best way to appear harmless is to seem fractured and primitive. The realization struck Zorlax like a physical blow. The humans had deliberately projected weakness. They had hidden their true capabilities, created a false image for any watching eyes. They had employed deception on a planetary scale, something the Vaxari, with their tradition of direct confrontation, had never considered. What happens now? Zorlax asked. Do you demand our territory? Our technology? Tribute Admiral Morgan shook her head. No, we have no interest in conquest, Commander. We desire only to protect our world and expand peacefully. Your ship and surviving crew will be returned to you, with a message for your empire. Earth is not to be threatened. Again, Zorlax could hardly believe what she was hearing. The humans were showing mercy, a concept foreign to Vaxari warfare. Why would you do this, she asked, when you could destroy us? Because that is not who we are, Director Wilson replied. Taking your ship and crew as prisoners would gain us little returning. You sends a message of strength, not weakness. Only the truly powerful can afford mercy. The Admiral added, We hope this encounter might lead to something better than conflict, perhaps even eventual alliance. The galaxy is vast with threats unknown to either of us. Cooperation may benefit both our species. This concept was revolutionary to Zorlax. In Vaxari culture, the defeated expected only enslavement or death. The humans offered a third path, one her people had never considered. As the meeting concluded, Zorlax was escorted back to her temporary quarters. Her mind raced with implications. The Empire would not take this defeat lightly. Yet the humans' capabilities suggested any future conflict would end similarly. The wisest course might be the one the humans offered: peace. On Earth, news of the alien encounter had finally been released to the public. The government had carefully managed the information, presenting the event as a first contact rather than an invasion attempt. Images of the battle had been restricted, but the massive alien ship had been visible to many observers, making complete denial impossible. In a small town in Wyoming, Kathy Reynolds watched the presidential address on her television screen. The president stood at a podium flanked by military officials and scientists. My fellow Americans, today, I can confirm that 3 days ago, Earth made contact with an extraterrestrial civilization, she announced. The visiting ship has departed after peaceful discussions. We have established preliminary communication with their government. Kathy listened with growing suspicion as the president described a diplomatic exchange. What the speech omitted was more telling than what it included. No mention of weapons fire, no explanation for the strange lights that had filled the sky during what many had assumed was an aurora. There was something the government Wasn't telling them. Across the room, her daughter Lisa played with toys, oblivious to the historic announcement on television. Kathy wondered what kind of world her child would grow up in, now that humanity knew for certain they were not alone in the universe. In the Nevada Command Center, Susan Wright and her team continued monitoring space for any sign of additional alien vessels. The battle had proven their systems effective, but everyone recognized this might be just the beginning. General Patricia Coleman entered the monitoring room, her face serious. "The President has authorized Phase 2. She announced effective immediately. The Olympus fleet will begin deep space patrols. We no longer have the luxury of waiting for threats to come to us." Susan nodded. Understanding the implications, the secret Earth fleet would establish a perimeter beyond the moon, expanding humanity's defensive sphere. This would require more personnel, more ships, and more resources, all while maintaining the public facade of limited space capabilities. "Do we have enough ships to establish an effective perimeter?" she asked. "Not yet," the general admitted, "but construction has been accelerated. The lunar shipyards are operating at maximum capacity. We should have sufficient coverage within 6 months. Until then, we remain vulnerable." The general nodded grimly. "We always are. The difference now is that we know it." Aboard the Artemis station, Admiral Morgan reviewed fleet deployment plans with her senior staff. The massive, holographic display showed Earth, the moon, and the planned patrol routes that would extend to the edge of the solar system. "The Vaxari will report back to their empire," Captain Grace Wilson observed. "They will return in greater numbers." The Admiral studied the tactical projections. According to the information from Commander Zorlax, it would take at least 3 months for her ship to reach Vaxari space, and for a response fleet to return. That gave Earth time, but not much. "We accelerate everything," the Admiral decided. "No more hiding our capabilities. The Artemis and Olympus stations go public. Construction of the Mars base moves to Phase 3. The Jupiter mining operations double production." Her staff nodded, making notes and adjustments to the plans. The facade of a primitive Earth had served its purpose. Now humanity needed to rapidly expand its defensive capabilities to prepare for the next encounter. The planning session was interrupted by an urgent communication from Earth Admiral. The communications officer called. "We have a priority message from NORAD. New contacts detected approaching from the outer system." Not Vaxari. Design Morgan moved quickly to the communication station. The display showed multiple objects decelerating as they approached Mars orbit. Their energy signatures were unlike the Vaxari ship, completely different in configuration. "Are they responding to hail?" she asked. "No, Admiral," the officer replied. "They appear to be running silent. Trajectory suggests Earth as their destination. Estimated arrival in 48 hours. The Admiral activated the station-wide alert. "Bring all defense systems to full readiness," she ordered. "Recall all ships on patrol to form a defensive perimeter at lunar orbit. Deploy reconnaissance drones to gather more data on the approaching vessels." As the station crew rushed to battle stations, Admiral Morgan considered the implications. The Vaxari could not have returned so quickly. These were new players, unknown entities, with unknown intentions. The battle with Zorlax might have drawn attention from others watching the sector. She opened a secure channel to the President. "Madam President, we have a situation. New contacts approaching. Not Vaxari. I recommend elevating to threat level Alpha in." Her ship returning to Vaxari space, Zorlax reviewed the sensor logs from the battle with the humans again. The data confirmed what she already knew. The humans had technology far beyond what anyone had suspected. Their shield system alone represented an advancement the Vaxari had not achieved. Her second-in-command, Krex, entered the command deck, moving carefully. His injuries from the battle still caused him pain. "The crew is restless," he reported. "They do not understand why the humans released us. They expect trickery." Zorlax nodded, understanding their confusion. The concept of mercy was foreign to their culture. "The humans are unlike any species we have encountered," she said. "They hide their true strength behind a facade of weakness. They fight fiercely when threatened, yet show restraint in victory. These are not traits the Vaxari understand. But the High Command will not accept this defeat." Krex warned. They will demand retribution. Zorlax knew he was right. The Empire had never retreated, never surrendered, never accepted defeat. The High Command would order a full invasion fleet, a force that might overwhelm even the impressive human defenses. I must make them understand, she decided. The humans are not. Like our previous conquests, engaging them further will only lead to greater losses. They protected themselves but sought no territory, demanded no tribute. They are dangerous, not because they are aggressive, but because they are prepared. Krex looked skeptical. You suggest we avoid conflict with these humans, perhaps even seek alliance. That is not the Vaxari way. Perhaps the Vaxari way needs to change, Zorlax replied. Our expansion has gone unchallenged for too long. We have grown complacent, expecting easy victories. The humans have shown us our vulnerability as her ship traveled through the darkness. Zorlax considered what awaited her upon return. Likely court-martial, possibly execution for the failure of her mission. Yet she was determined to make the High Command understand the truth about Earth and its defenders. A truth that might reshape the Empire's future. On Earth, in a secure underground facility, Susan Wright made a discovery that sent chills through her body. The Deep Space Monitoring Network had detected communications between the approaching unknown vessels and a location on Earth. The aliens, whoever they were, had contacts already on the planet. She immediately reported her findings to General Coleman. General, we have evidence of alien communications originating from somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, she explained. Someone on Earth is talking to those ships. The general frowned. This changes everything. We may be dealing with infiltration, not just an approaching fleet. Alert Homeland Security, and get me everything you can on the source of those transmissions. Susan returned to her station, working feverishly to isolate and track the mysterious signals. Who on Earth would be communicating with unknown alien vessels? The implications were disturbing, suggesting either human collaboration or perhaps aliens already living among them. In Wyoming. Kathy Reynolds tucked her daughter Lisa into bed. The child was full of questions about the aliens, questions Kathy couldn't answer. Are they friendly like E.T. or scary like in the movies, Lisa asked. I don't know, honey. Kathy replied, stroking her daughter's hair. But whatever they are, well, be okay, as she turned off the light. Kathy noticed an unusual glow outside the window. Moving. To investigate, she pulled back the curtain and gasped. At the edge of their property, a small object hovered just above the ground, pulsing with blue light. It wasn't from the government. It wasn't from the Vaxari. It was something else entirely. In the White House, the president received Admiral Morgan's report about the new approaching vessels with growing concern. One alien encounter had been managed successfully, but the public was barely adjusting to that revelation. Now, more ships approached, with unknown intentions. The Secretary of Defense, Michelle Torres, presented the latest intelligence. These new contacts are smaller, faster than the Vaxari vessel. Their formation suggests a scouting party, not an invasion force, and the communications originating from Earth our agencies are converging on the source, she replied. We should have more information within hours. The president looked out the window at the night sky, wondering what was coming. Earth had successfully defended itself once, but each encounter brought new dangers, new unknowns. The galaxy was proving to be a more crowded and perilous place than anyone had imagined. Board the Artemis station, Admiral Morgan watched as the fleet assembled in lunar orbit. The ships formed a defensive screen, the most powerful combat force humans had ever created. Yet against the unknown, it was impossible to know if it would be enough. Prepare for all contingencies, she ordered. We proved ourselves against the Vaxari. Now we face something new, and this time we don't have 50 years to prepare. Now for part 3. The unknown vessels continued their approach toward Earth, maintaining their silence. Despite repeated attempts at communication, Admiral Linda Morgan studied the tactical display aboard the Artemis station, watching as the mysterious ships decelerated into Mars orbit. 24 hours had passed since their detection, and still, their intentions remained unclear. They aren't responding to any frequency or method we try. Communications Officer Melissa Hunt reported, We've tried standard protocols, mathematical sequences, even the Vaxari communication codes. Nothing, Admiral Morgan frowned. The lack of response was concerning. Were these visitors hostile or simply cautious? Either way, their presence so soon after the Vaxari encounter couldn't be coincidence. Maintain defensive positions, she ordered, but no aggressive actions. We won't fire first. The fleet commanders acknowledged her orders. The Earth Defense Force had formed a protective screen at lunar orbit, a formation designed to intercept any approach to the planet. The ships gleamed in the sunlight, their hulls bearing the insignia of a united Earth rather than individual nations, a symbol of humanity's secret cooperation. On Earth, in the small town of Cedar Falls, Wyoming, Kathy Reynolds approached the strange glowing object at the edge of her property with cautious steps. Her daughter Lisa was safely inside the house, hopefully asleep, unaware of the otherworldly visitor. The blue light pulsed rhythmically, casting eerie shadows across the snow-covered ground. Kathy's hand trembled as she held up her phone, trying to capture video of the phenomenon. The object was roughly spherical, about the size of a basketball, hovering silently 2 feet above the ground. It emitted no heat, no sound, just the steady blue glow. "What are you?" she whispered, not expecting an answer. To her shock, the sphere pulsed brighter momentarily, then projected a series of symbols into the air. Strange angular markings that shifted and changed. The display lasted only seconds before disappearing. The sphere then rose higher, moving away from her property toward the dense forest beyond. Kathy stood frozen, uncertain whether to follow or run back to the house. Before she could decide, headlights appeared on her driveway. A black SUV, with government plates pulled up, and 4 people in dark suits emerged. Ms. Reynolds. A woman approached, showing identification. "Homeland Security. We need to speak with you about what you just witnessed." In the Nevada Command Center, Susan Wright had finally isolated the source of the mysterious transmissions. Someone or something in the Pacific Northwest was sending coded messages to the approaching alien vessels. The signal origin appeared to be moving, traveling through remote areas of Washington. State General Coleman studied the tracking data on Susan's screen. "They're being careful, avoiding populated areas," she observed. "Almost as if they know we're looking for them, or they've been here long enough to understand how to avoid detection." Susan suggested the implications are disturbing. "If these aren't recent arrivals, we need to assume the worst." The general decided that we may have had undetected visitors for some time. "Get me satellite coverage of that entire region. I want thermal imaging. Radar, everything we've got," as they worked to track the mysterious signal. The main display suddenly changed, showing the approaching alien fleet. The vessels had altered their formation, spreading out in a pattern that suggested preparation for action. "They've changed course," General Susan reported. "They're accelerating directly toward lunar orbit. Estimated arrival 90 minutes. Alert the fleet." The general ordered, "And notify the president. The waiting game is over, in Wyoming." Kathy Reynolds sat at her kitchen table facing the Homeland Security agents. They had explained nothing, only asked questions about what she had seen. The lead agent, a stern woman named Agent Laura King, made notes as Kathy described the glowing sphere. "And you say it displayed symbols?" she asked. "How many? Did you recognize any of them?" Kathy shook her head. "No, they weren't anything I've ever seen. Not letters or numbers. Just strange shapes. They appeared for maybe 5 seconds, then vanished." The agent showed her a tablet with various symbol sets. "Did they look like any of these?" Kathy studied the images, surprised to see dozens of different alien writing systems. How many other encounters had there been for the government to have compiled such a catalog? This one, she pointed to, an angular script with geometric patterns. Similar to these, but not exactly the same. Agent King exchanged glances with her colleagues. "That's consistent with the others," she murmured. "Others?" Kathy asked. "There have been more sightings," the agent ignored, her question continuing with her own. "How long have you lived in Cedar Falls, Miss Reynolds?" 3 years. "Why?" "And your husband?" "He passed away 2 years ago," Kathy replied. "What does this have to do with that thing? In my yard again?" Her question was ignored. "Have you noticed anything unusual in the area recently? Lights in the sky. Unexplained sounds. People you don't recognize. Kathy was about to protest the intrusive questioning when a noise from upstairs caught everyone's attention. Lisa's voice. "Mommy, there's a blue light in my room." Everyone froze. The agents reached for their weapons as Kathy bolted for the stairs. Her daughter Lisa stood in the hallway, rubbing her eyes sleepily, pointing toward her bedroom. The sphere had returned aboard the Artemis. Station alarms sounded as the alien fleet suddenly accelerated toward Earth. The unknown vessels had increased speed dramatically, suggesting advanced propulsion systems beyond even what the Vaxari had displayed. Admiral Morgan issued rapid orders. "Defensive formation Alpha, deploy countermeasures. All ships' weapons hot, but hold fire until my command." The Earth fleet responded, moving to intercept the approaching vessels. Missile batteries on the lunar surface activated, locking onto the incoming targets. The massive shield generators that had protected Earth from the Vaxari began powering up again, ready to create a protective barrier around the planet. In the White House Situation Room, the president and her advisors watched the tactical feed from Artemis with growing tension. "They're moving too fast to be peaceful," the Secretary of Defense observed. "This has all the characteristics of an attack run." The president nodded grimly, authorizing the final defense protocols. "Admiral Morgan, you are cleared to engage if they cross the lunar boundary," she transmitted. "No chances this time." In Wyoming, the Homeland Security agents surrounded Lisa's bedroom, weapons drawn. Agent King held Kathy and her daughter back in the hallway while the others prepared to breach the room. "On three," she whispered. "1, 2. Before she could say 3, the door swung open on its own, revealing the floating sphere now pulsing with intense blue light. The agents aimed their weapons but hesitated, uncertain what effect bullets might have on the object. The sphere projected its symbols again, more complex this time, filling the air with geometric patterns. "It's trying to communicate," Agent King realized. "Lower your weapons." One of the agents, a specialist in linguistics, studied the patterns. "Those aren't just random symbols," she said. "They're mathematical sequences, prime numbers, universal constants. This is a deliberate attempt at basic communication." The sphere pulsed brighter, as if recognizing understanding. It moved closer, hovering directly before them. "What does it want?" Kathy asked, holding Lisa protectively. Before anyone could answer, the symbols changed, showing a simplified image of the solar system with multiple ships approaching Earth. Then the image shifted, showing Earth surrounded by a defensive fleet. Then a third image appeared, showing both fleets meeting with symbols that suggested conflict. "It's warning us." Agent King realized. "It's trying to tell us something about the approaching ships in space." The alien fleet continued its rapid approach toward Earth, now just minutes from reaching the defensive perimeter. Admiral Morgan watched the tactical display, noting their formation and speed. "These aren't the same as the Vaxari," she observed. To her staff, "They're smaller, more agile. Their approach suggests familiarity with our defenses, almost as if they've studied us." The science officer, Lieutenant Bailey Parker, analyzed the sensor readings. "The energy signatures are completely different from Vaxari technology," she reported. "These ships appear to use a form of gravitational manipulation rather than conventional propulsion, and their hull composition, it's almost biological." "Biological," Admiral Morgan frowned. The implications were disturbing. Many of Earth's theoretical xenobiologists had proposed that truly alien life might blur the line between technology and biology. Such entities would be fundamentally different from both humans and Vaxari. The communications officer suddenly straightened. "We're receiving a transmission, Admiral. Text only in English. Put it on screen," Morgan ordered. The message appeared simple and direct. "Earth defenses, stand down. Immediate danger, approaching from Sector 7. We come to assist, not harm. Vaxari encounter. Alerted others more dangerous." "The hive approaches." Admiral Morgan studied the message with suspicion. The timing seemed too convenient, just as they were about to engage. Could this be a deception to lower Earth's defenses? "Verify this," she ordered. "Izzy, there any indication of other vessels approaching from the designated sector?" The sensor operators worked quickly, scanning deep space in the direction indicated by the message. Sector 7 corresponded roughly to the direction of Betelgeuse, Admiral. "Initial scans show gravitational distortions at the edge of our sensor range. Lieutenant Parker reported, "Something large is moving toward the solar system. Estimated arrival 48 hours based on current velocity." Morgan faced a critical decision: trust the warning from unknown aliens or treat them as hostile. The stakes could not be higher in the Nevada facility. Susan Wright detected something that changed everything. "General, we're receiving the same warning through the signal in the Pacific Northwest," she reported. "The source on Earth is transmitting identical information about this hive." The general studied the new data. Could they be working together? Susan nodded. Two different alien groups, both warning about a third. That suggests this threat might be real. On the tactical display, the approaching fleet had slowed, maintaining position just beyond lunar orbit, a deliberate, non-aggressive stance. They were waiting for Earth's response, in Wyoming. The floating sphere projected a new image. This one showing Earth and the newly arrived aliens standing together against a much larger swarm of ships. The message seemed clear: alliance against a common enemy agent. King made a decision, activating her secure communication link. "Director Wilson, this is Agent King. We have a situation in Wyoming that corroborates the space warning. Requesting immediate conference with command in the White House." The president received the consolidated reports from all sources: the Artemis station, the Nevada facility, and the field agents in Wyoming. The evidence suggested the warning might be legitimate. "Admiral Morgan, what's your assessment?" she asked.